Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Headlines WWE RAW review. Me absolutely nailing life and having my mic on already and just turning it off. Good start, really good start. Anyway, hello and welcome to Wrestling Headlines WWE RAW review. My name is Maher, aka Im, and today we're going to be talking about Kofi Kingston and his kind of little main event push within this show. Also, a little bit of warning, my voice is a little bit raspy coming off Eurovision, and I am European, so yes, and the adult drinks that come with it. So we'll see how this goes. But the main event of Monday Night Raw, which was built up massively throughout the show, was Bobby Lashley's WWE Champion Open Challenge. Insinuated throughout the show that this was going to be for the championship. What an amazing opportunity this is to face the champion for the championship in the main event. That's huge. Who is going to accept this mighty challenge? And that's how it was built throughout the show. You got multiple wrestlers talking about how they're going to capture that opportunity or take Bobby Lashley up on it and prove themselves. From Shelton Benjamin to Retribution to Damian Priest after his match, they had everybody just make a point, just say something on it. Make it feel like a huge deal that Bobby Lashley's offering this. What an amazing deal it is that is being offered here. Then it comes to match time. And in universe, it's a MVP Bobby Lashley swerve. Of course it's not for the title. Of course it's not. But as a viewer, it's just another WWE swerve. Just another one of them. So, good stuff there. So they built it up throughout the entire show. Only to swerve and go, nah, it's not for the title, is it? In a Sheamus move. With the difference that it had been built up throughout the entire show to be for the title. And then he went, I didn't say it though, did I? And then they played the clip of Drew McIntyre interfering. Which immediately I'm just like, well, that can't possibly be the normal thing of rewriting it during the show as, actually, we don't want it to be for the title. During the show, which has happened in the past. But here, no. They did that at the start because they had the clip to play, which makes me think this was entirely on purpose. Which makes it just a little bit weird. Just a little bit weird. Just a little bit. Yeah, it's purposefully built. I'll say a little bit weird. It's a WWE trope to go for the swerve to piss off your audience. It's a weird one. The idea is, again, it's the heel heat. It's like, it's going to be for the title. Nah, it's not. But I feel like we've seen that done a bit better with the US Championship. Just because there isn't that hyping of it's going to be for the title, what this massive deal, and then just snatched away. It's not for the title. Like, but you officially were hyping it. So you can't go, fool on you, viewers, you thought we put the title on the line. That's because you told us you were putting the title on the line. We've got no other information to go off on your show. Yeah. Anyway, but this show overall, I feel like that's just like nitty-gritty stuff. Really, it was the elevation of Kofi Kingston. Maybe it's just a bit part in his feud with Drew McIntyre, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with like a Kofi push at all. But I kind of read this as like temporarily, because for me, it really does scream that maybe you don't have Drew McIntyre be the immediate next contender. And there's a bit of time between now and Hell in a Cell. Your TV story could be Kofi Kingston's rise. And I'm not against a strong TV story, because Raw needs it a little bit. Monday Night Raw kind of needs it. So, go for that. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Is he being massively pushed, or is this just like a shorts TV thing? It's purely because Drew McIntyre was massively involved in what was going on. He was the semi-focus of it. It's like, you're doing Lashley McIntyre, Hell in a Cell. Cool, gotcha. The biggest issue, I saw like loads of people saying it on Twitter. So like the biggest issue with Bobby Lashley, I accidentally said my joking name for him. But the biggest issue for it is there is no other contender. There is nobody for him to face. So when he says, we're doing an open challenge, who's going to answer it aside from Drew? Who else is there to face him at the Cell? There isn't anybody. But you could use this TV time to elevate someone. And there is a relatively recently, former champion on the roster in Kofi Kingston. It's not going to take much to elevate him because of that past. And this Monday Night Raw felt like them maybe trying to do that in one episode. That said, they weren't exactly, convincing I'm a fantastic wrestler wins. Both of them were by distraction, like heavily involving Xavier Woods. And then it was Drew McIntyre for the main event as well. It was Bobby Lashley getting teamed up on with Xavier Woods distracting the referee, Drew McIntyre just lamping him over the head with MVP's cane. It was, and I'm pretty certain I just called him MPV. But yeah, it was it wasn't a clean super babyface thing, even though it was treated as the we got you, which it always is when it's a babyface doing exactly what a heel would do, but it's treated as we got you, didn't we? Hey, and the crowd goes, hey, you did, you got him. But it did feel like quite a strong push for Kofi, and that's kind of like my first thing just to like hit on and talk about, which is that this whole show was building up what a mighty opportunity it was to face Bobby Lashley for the title. Even with the title pulled away, it had been hyped as such a big match that it still felt like a big deal when it happened. And of course, earlier in the night, Kofi Kingston had rolled up Randy Orton and scored a pinfall over him. And no matter what the kind of storyline reasons going on around it are, Kofi Kingston still beat Randy Orton, one of the top guys in the roster, in a singles match that immediately elevates him. Then later in the match, he pins the WWE champion. It doesn't matter that it was by distraction or whatever, that immediately elevates him. Like 2 in one night as well. It's like you've just set up Kofi Kingston to face the champion, and you don't necessarily have to do it at Hell in a Cell. But for all I know, there is actually a road to Hell in a Cell, which, to be fair, I'd really quite like to see. It's my biggest gripe with Raw, that it screams made up week to week. Oh, that it's so constantly changed. There isn't much of a long-term... Well, there's not always a short-term plan in place. Never mind a long-term one. And that's not, again, I'm not saying short-term bad, long-term good. That's not what I'm saying. 'Cause that's become a meme at this point. But, for me personally, mid-card TV stuff like Drew Gulak, Angel Garza, I'm perfectly fine having that be week to week. It's not that big a deal. I'm fine with it. You can go off of reactions and kind of take it certain ways. It's kind of nonsense. It's the most unknownly homoerotic story in WWE today, and I'm fine with it. You don't have to have a massive roadmap for that kind of storyline. But for your main event, for your massive thing leading into a big Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, wouldn't mind at least a 4-week idea till June. Is it June 20th, Hell in a Cell? Just a road to at least then. At least is what I'd be fine with. But anyway, Kofi Kingston. This show for me really elevated him. And we're looking at Kofi Kingston facing Bobby Lashley. He's pinned the champion. He's done the thing against where he's pinned the champion. Therefore, he's surely going to face him in the WWE style of how do we set up a title match where you pin the champion and the person who pinned him faces him. Cool. It's the only way they could possibly do it. There's no other way. That said, I still see Drew McIntyre Lashley at Hell in a Cell. So that's why it's kind of got me interested. So, well, what are they elevating Kofi Kingston to or for? And are they even doing that? Because to have him beat Lashley and Orton in one night, that's, no matter how it went down, that is, feels like there's a reason you did that. Or what are you building to? Is he just going to face Lashley next week for the title? Or have we got ourselves into a different road to Hell in a Cell than we would have been expecting? Or again, is this just time filler? Kind of like Retribution were in a way for Lashley and McIntyre to eventually face each other at Hell in a Cell, which screams that is the match. It screams that they get that third pay-per-view in a row, because it's a WWE thing to have like a match like McIntyre, because I can't remember, was McIntyre Orton was their final match at Hell in a Cell, so does it poetically, I guess, kind of like, yeah, have McIntyre Lashley also end at Hell in a Cell. However, knowing WWE, this screams penultimate match, not final match. Just like the kind of rhythm. We've had WrestleMania, we've had Backlash, but Backlash was a triple threat. Then you give us just Lashley McIntyre 2 more times, so you're giving us that 3 times. And by that third one, by that final one, which would be in July by that point, by that one, you are kind of just, like, mindset-wise, as you're entering the build for it, it's just kind of like, I mean, it's been going on so long now, you don't really care. That's the pattern I kind of got into with Orton McIntyre, where, yes, there was a lot of quality stuff within there, but it went on so long that for me, they clearly got to a point where it's like, well, we're going to have to really elevate things for a reason for this feud to continue. And if that was the Splinter Cell attack by Randy Orton, and that was the massive moment of instigation to kick us down to like yet another match. That's what I'm expecting. Expecting Hell in a Cell, to feel like it should be the end, but it won't be because that's not what the schedule dictates. It's got to go on again till... Is it Money in the Bank after that? I don't know if it's super confirmed. But you could do Lashley decrown McIntyre at Money in the Bank with a live crowd. They didn't do it at WrestleMania. And I felt like Bobby Lashley has deserved a run. Do they still want to get the title onto Bobby Lashley or not? It's the next thing. That is the next thing. But yeah, a strong run, really, for Kofi Kingston on this show. It just screams that they're still going to do Lashley and McIntyre. So what's going to happen to Kofi? Why have you elevated him? Was it because, oh damn, we definitely need a new main eventer? How do we create one as quickly as possible? So, oh, Kofi was a main eventer a little while ago, and fans still hold quite a bit of resentment for how that run just came to an end with no ceremony. Like, oh yeah, could elevate him again. Wouldn't be that difficult. Fans would already be behind him. Yeah. So I say decently strong. It's the curse to say, let's see how it goes. It's like, oh, let's not criticise it too early. Let's see how it goes. It's like, often in WWE, that like more often than not, the kind of thing that's being criticised for that on night one screams it won't be great. And they go, oh, let's not criticise, let's not be negative numpty, let's hold it off. It's like, But in this case, it's more questions of, he did a decent job, like giving Kofi Kingston 2 big wins, even though they weren't super convincing. He got 2 wins over 2 big stars. That's a big deal. You're on your way to elevating him at that point. Are they committing to anything, or is it just a McIntyre-Lashley thing because of what McIntyre did at the end? I'm generally interested. So good on you on Raw for doing that, because I've been watching that show and just zoning out for lots of it, especially the mid-card of these shows, just gone, like who cares kind of stuff. But here, you've got me with this Kofi thing. Purely because I still see Lashley McIntyre at Hell in a Cell can't possibly involve Kofi. So what's going on here? Worst case scenario, it's a retribution-y deal. That's the worst case scenario. God, I hope not. Anyway, I'm now going to go through the show in order, starting with, I guess, with MVP's promo at the start of the show. Which is, actually, no, I'll jump to AJ Styles Alliance. I've talked enough about Lashley. Stuff. The notes I have missed is Lashley came out at the start of the show with a line of women behind him as MVP cut a promo just on how he's still standing, how there isn't going to be any McIntyre action, any Braun Strowman in action because of how devastating that main event was. And but the key point was Drew McIntyre interfered. He came out and he cut the promo done. However, he did it right as MVP was about to say that they'll be putting the championship on the line. So MVP, because he got interrupted, never said that line. Therefore, they can say in the main event, oh, MVP didn't say it's for the title, so it wasn't for the title. But it's a little detail that he was starting to say that and then got interrupted by Drew McIntyre's music hitting. So there's a little detail that MVP then used that against the challenger. And it was Drew McIntyre in the end who attacked and got the man the win. But it wasn't for the title. You can have a little bit of angst between Drew McIntyre and Kofi Kingston, because now McIntyre's the reason it's not for the title. And there's a little bit of babyface tension, even though you can say, it's MVP, he's the one who pulled the rug from under us. It's like, but you're the one who stopped him from saying it by interrupting. There's things to play with here. There's things to play with. Which, to be fair, like New Day Orton kind of was that nice little tension of, they're both kind of faces right now, but you've created little tensions in between them which are believable, and that's really nice to see. So yes. Also, they made it very clear that MVP was like saying, wait, you didn't let me finish when McIntyre came out to start the show. It's like, I was saying like an open challenge to anyone but you. So no chance for McIntyre, but that main event screamed you're getting McIntyre anyway. Like that's what it screamed from me. Yeah. Like Bobby Lashley, like him and MVP are the heel. They're the heels, but as a viewer, I'm totally agreeing with them. It's like, yeah, it would be quite nice for there to be somebody else, and that's one of my biggest problems with the Monday Night Raw main event. It's so incredibly shallow, and there was that same feeling when it was Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton. It's like, well, who else does he face? Because they hadn't elevated anybody. It turns out Bobby Lashley was in the middle of quite a long kind of building of prestigiousness. As when he gets the opportunity, oh yes, I feel it, which was really, really great to feel. But it does mean, well, now you're on to McIntyre, Lashley, same problem. It's better than at only two, because at least you've now got Orton, McIntyre, and Lashley as like your big three. Whatever Wyatt does, who knows what's going to happen to Wyatt? Maybe he's going to be rebranded in a way to, or just taken off TV for a little bit for him to return and be able to challenge for the title. Who knows? Who knows? Raw, I feel like it needs a lot of reworking, and so far since WrestleMania, I feel like lots of reworking has been happening. That doesn't mean they've found the even balanced point yet. It's still a lot of nonsense, still a lot of stuff that kind of feels like it needs to be sorted out for the show to actually be properly working. But I can feel changes are being made. So changes are being made. It doesn't mean I'm enjoying it as it happens, which we'll get to. The next match is the perfect example of that. So AJ Styles with Omos versus Elias with Jackson Riker. And it's AJ Styles versus Elias. So, heel versus kinda heel. Like, it's nice to see progression from last week, a reaction to a loss. Like, the result actually meant something to the characters. What insanity. But that is a improvement from what we were seeing the weeks after WrestleMania, the weeks going into WrestleMania. This felt like a direct reaction to previous results. Golf clap. Golf clap. But Elias's big man in Riker wasn't as big as AJ's big man. Omos dwarves them all. Doesn't mean I was massively into the match, but at least I'm not crapping on the booking. A relative back and forth until AJ rightly got on top. However, perched on the apron for the phenomenal forearm, Riker yanked the man down for the DQ. So yeah, an FE finish after 10 minutes isn't the most appealing thing to kicking off your Monday Night Raw show. But really, for me, this was just a firmer shift towards Styles and Omos becoming babyfaces. So it did that job. It's just a shame that they had a relatively built match that was, again, like 10 minutes or so. Then they just did the DQ. It's like, there's going to be no finish to this. Cool. It's the thing of like making wins and losses matter. That I have now got a company that does that in AEW. I watch AEW and it feels like the results of their matches matter. They so rarely have DQ finishes. And I feel like the only time recently they have was calling an audible after somebody got injured. Well, what do we do now? That's the closest they've ever come. This is purposely booked stuff. You don't really get finishes to matches because the important point isn't the result of the wrestling. Which means me watching the wrestling on the show doesn't feel important. Which you can see is massively detrimental to a 3-hour wrestling show. just a little bit over the course of time, if that's the kind of mentality of your booking. And this was another example of that, where I did like the storyline progression. I did like that it was a result. This match was a result of a loss, and both guys are going to fight it out. I really did like that. But for it to then end in a screwy finish at the end of it, is like, well, the important part here wasn't the result, it was shifting AJ Styles and Omos. Which again, I've got no problems with any of the outside of the wrestling stuff. It's just that you dedicated 10 minutes of your show to try and get me invested in the match and then didn't give me a finish. But it already kind of managed to get me to shift. Yeah, you can get your result without putting anybody over. So without having anybody take a loss. Sorry, to kind of take that. It's an interesting one. I'm going to say that a lot because there is a workaround for this, and as everything else, the reason I find it interesting is everything else is so positive. It's just such a shame. It's just such a shame that there is the kind of shining little negative that is like, no, it still gives us another screwy finish. So you can get through this without doing that. Like, yeah, you can do it. Because again, the result of the match wasn't the point of the segment. They shifted AJ Styles and Omos over to being a bit more baby faces, and therefore it did its job. Who cares about the result? Well, over the course of time, surely you want me to care about the wrestling on your 3-hour wrestling show. If the results don't matter, then it's just as good. It's just as good. Sending the message is just as good. And I'm pretty certain that's not the first time I've employed that sarcasm. So we got Riddle backstage trying to get Randy to grow as a goodie once again, attempting to get the man to apologise for last week's RKOs to New Day. He refused as Kofi drops a banger of a line in calling him, just donning him somebody who was having a reptile dysfunction. I really like that. setting up a match between the two later in the night, which itself was like a nice little setup for the main event. So yeah, like it had like 3 segments that tied into each other, and every character had a spin-off from it. Even Xavier, because he was important in the main event. It's like, 4 people all spun off from one match, having things to do. What is this? What is this positive praise and maximum you giving? You then got Alexa Bliss story time, right into negative. Again, it really is time for this to go somewhere, and this week screamed, where is this going? So kind of spinning into the air, I guess. Tamina and Natalya were in the playground for an interview, if that's a thing now. Tamina's spooked and was having none of it. Really just a way to announce the Women's Tag Team Championship rematch for tonight, of which Alexa Bliss did take a part, because I'll just fast forward to it. The championships were on the line, because this was just a rematch, and it wasn't that long a match. Very quickly ended up into the final spot of Cane Fire, as Alexa Bliss is on the stage, holding Lily. Or what could possibly be causing this fire? As Alexa gets Cane Fire to fire out of the turnbuckles, and Reginald was a bit too close. They then used the distraction as Nia ran to attend to Reginald, and the new champions, Natalya and Tamina, hit, I want to call it the heart attack. It was a Heart Foundation's finisher, pretty certain it's a heart attack. As they, hit that on Shayna Baszler for the win, after Reginald was relatively near the Cane Pyro, and then was holding his eyes. As in, he's halfway down the steps, fire goes up, he holds his eyes, Nia goes to attend to him, Baszler's distracted as well. Hit your finisher. Yeah. Then Alexa Bliss's laugh was playing over Natalya's theme in a Lily state of affairs. What did you do, Lily? I've watched too much IT Crowd. But yeah, it was a segment on my television that I watched, and I feel like that's the best praise I can give it. And after last week, so after I watched last week and then I watched this one, I'm like, ha ha. And last week I got my hopes up, there was a plan. This week just, it's like, we're still in the same, like the praise Alexa Bliss giving it of, what's really fun is that we don't really know where it's going, so it's kind of like a new cool thing every time we go to work. What are we going to do this week? And I'm just like, I mean, there's no plan, so, and there never has been a plan. Fingers crossed, there's a longer term thing here. It's week 1 after a pay-per-view, not always going to have the strongest direction. Then settle on something quite often on week 2 or 3 to go a bit more firmly into the pay-per-view. Again, we've got till the 20th of June. There is some time to kind of just wobble around a little bit before finding your feet for the pay-per-view. But what on earth is going on here? So she directly attacked Baszler, then she's attacked Reginald. The only one she's not gone after is Nia Jax. And I don't even know if I care why. It's like, you're going after Nia because if it's the Bray thing, then it's people from your past. And in some way, Alexa Bliss, it kind of makes sense that Lily wouldn't like Nia Jax because of the feud that they had back in 2017. I guess. I don't even know if that level of logic means anything with how week to week it's written. Because Alexa Bliss screams a character, have a plan for, do your little promo things, then you've got the pay-per-view itself, and then you can actually kick off into whatever her feud is. These past 2 weeks of her getting involved in the wrestling just feels like it's just as make it up as you go along as it was beforehand. So there's been no lesson learned, no improvement. It's still, the Fiend stuff is, or Lily stuff, is still wrapped up in making it up week to week with no direction. But a character like that, surely it's so out there you need at least a plan to make it feel semi-grounded. Otherwise you're just doing flight of fancy stuff, which is my major gripe with the Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt era of The Fiend. It nosedived into flight of fancy because I'm making it up week to week. What do you feel like this week? And there's no narrative to ground it because you're making it up. They fall onto a narrative rather than it being the floor to support what they're doing. Yeah, that's why I struggle to get invested in the Alexa Bliss stuff. Some people really love it. And nothing against them. Good for you if you're able to get stuff out of this. For me, it's the type of thing where if there was something in place, as I just said, like a narrative road for them to actually walk on, rather than the flight of fancy. And it's just hovering about, doing stuff. But who cares when it's got no narrative support, any kind of falling direction. Yeah, I'm at that point now with the Alexa Bliss stuff. I want it to be good, but it something needs to go somewhere, and I feel like making it up week to week is not the way to go. I think give me something to firmly grasp onto. If it is Nia Jax, then just give me that. Just something to grasp onto, to kind of firmly go in a direction. And I feel like that should come like closer rather than later, if that is the plan. If it is. Because there was no interference of Alexa Bliss in the Women's Championship match, even though it was Charlotte Flair as the focus, staring at Bliss after the Shayna Baszler giving Shayna Baszler a cramp in her calf last week. So if there's... And Charlotte Flair was the focus, then there was nothing at WrestleMania Backlash. Then there was nothing in Charlotte Flair stuff this week. And I'm a bit worried that they did the thing on Raw, then decided afterwards they didn't want to have any association with Flair with that, and instead they're going into this as well. Cool. Cool, alright then. Which again just screams, oh please just have some form of narrative road. As in, this is what we're doing to the pay-per-view, and work off that at least. I guess. They do it. They have the match for the pay-per-view most likely on a card, but or whatever pay-per-view it is, might not even be Hell in a Cell for Alexa Bliss. But they have no idea how to get there. There's no week-to-week beat in place whatsoever. That's my prediction. I'm going with Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax, but there is nothing in place for these next few weeks. We don't really know how to get there. And they'll be doing the callbacks and stuff. Oh, remember this, remember that. That's why I'm going after you. But it'll feel like it's been made up week to week. That's my prediction. I'm going with it. I don't really make predictions on this, but I'm doing this one. Anyway, Angel Garza, Drew Gulak, the most unknowingly homoerotic feud in WWE today. Still, well done. Round of applause for keeping that going. Perfectly fine Teddy Fodder wrapped in WWE creative nonsense. But the only reason I kind of half-jokingly, gloriously praise it is because of it's so incredibly homoerotic. But the reason I find it funny is because it's unknowingly. There is no intention. Like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, there was no plan in place for it to be so. It just turns out that way. They are unknowingly they've made this, and that makes it all the grander, all the better. But the match itself was another one-sided assault from Garza before, yes, shoving the rose down Gulak's throat, and that was that. Yep, is this going to be moving on up for Angel Garza? Drew Gulak got an entrance this week, so we can tell that they were testing the waters and they were pretty happy with it. So a bit more of a substance to this thing this week. I feel like Angel Garza and Gulak are about to enter a state of constantly wrestling each other. Because worst case scenario is Damian Priest faces Angel Garza because they got nothing for him after The Miz unfortunately getting his ACL tear, which does absolutely suck. And of all matches, to have that happen in a zombie lumberjack match, like it was a complete nonsense match, got absolutely crapped on. Oh, and to make matters worse, you tore your ACL and you're going to be out for 5 to 7 months. Like, that sucks. As in, it screams the kind of thing where the wrestlers involved said something like, right, but there's a trade-off for me doing this. And then he gets injured for 5 to 7 months. That absolutely sucks. Yeah, so, yeah, heart out to him. Anyway, the 24/7 nonsense returned for the first time in ages. Like, R-Truth's been on Raw Talk, talking the Raw. It's not really been on the show, even though he's been 24/7 champion this whole time. Anyway, we got rolled up by Akira Tozawa, and now he's 24/7 champion. And I watched it, and then I moved on. Because I was like, oh, okay, should I care? I don't think I should. I don't think I should care. Sure, whatever. Anyway, Randy Orton with Matt Riddle versus Kofi Kingston with Xavier Woods. RKO, still one of the highlights of Raw for me, even though it was part of the bigger story of Kofi Kingston. Just the dynamic between Riddle and Randy Orton. I feel like there's just so much direction within it. So much character. And the duo is still getting laughed out of me. Riddle animatedly jiving to Orton's entrance as he's trying to be all methodically slow and shit. Just like, he's like, I'm trying to get my serious wrestler groove on, Matt, and you're just like, oh, I hear full of yeah, isn't it cool? And he's like stoic, like, serious. I need to get sick. Can you stop? I need to be. I love it. It's great. Again, it is just the broserweights with the. You've got your silly guy and you've got your stoic character. I can't remember what the comedic reference for the two is because I'm a bit too out of it. But it was a. I just love the pairing still. I love it. I love the pairing. Sure, facing Kofi's got Randy running familiar ropes, which isn't a saying, but I really like it. But wrapped up in the RKO bro stuff and a mini Kofi push, it just felt a bit different on this show. It felt like there was something to it. And when it comes to modern day Raw, that really is a positive thing. And you hear me going, like, for Raw, this is a huge positive, quite a bit throughout this show. It's like, for Raw, I might even lift this off of a 1 out of 5 into 2 or 3. As if for this week, on Raw's kind of level, I'm generally considering it this week. There's a lot of little positive things, but it's at Raw's level of positive. Anyway, Orton getting caught up via an easy distraction from Wood's expert trumpeting into a roll-up. A little sign of Orton's head not being in the game. Can see the one to RKO Riddle in his eyes after the match, but a nice evolving of the pair where Randy Orton just walks off up the ramp in anger, and Riddle's the one to snap and push Xavier Woods down. It's like, that's not cool, man. What you just did, that's not cool. And it's as in that's Riddle saying it to Xavier Woods, and it's not just Randy who's growing as a human being. Evidence there was seeing Matt Riddle stand up for Randy Orton and go, no, that was BS, and push the guy down. It's like, it's a little bit of, like, Randy Orton is like, you know, he's irritated that he likes Riddle. Like, why do I have to put up with this crap? why do I have to like him? But there's also the reverse effect. So Matt Riddle is wearing on Randy Orton in a positive way, but it's happening in the opposite direction as well. There's a little bit of Randy Orton appearing in the Matt Riddle, and that can only be good, right? Like, for me, the worst case scenario is Hell in a Cell, the two face each other. Like, it just keeps going for a bit because we're seeing actual character growth and development, which is so rare on Monday Night Raw. At least it has been. It's something like this is the kind of thing I'd like to see be commonplace with Monday Night Raw, especially as it just gives your mid card just a little bit something to chew on. It's just. Really nice to sit here. I'm really high on the arcade bro stuff. No pun intended. It's generally feels like it's a highlight of every show at this point. It's one of the highlights of Raw every week, and it's no different this week. So yeah, the opposite of that, we got a women's division band meeting with the tag division, which the women's tag division apparently has wrestlers that care about the championships. You don't always get that from the matches, but. Cool, I guess they care. When we, the viewer, have been told, these don't really matter, but apparently there's wrestlers that do care. When in steps Charlotte Flair, for an I'm the best kind of whinge, only for Ripley to chop her down, you're nothing but yesterday's jam. It's not what she said, but I've been watching IT Crowd. So in comes the reference. And after that, we then did go into the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match. Later in the show, we got a bit of Charlotte. In a really strong match. But first, Sheamus versus Ricochet. Because Ricochet got a promo before the match. Sheamus came out, they cut to Ricochet in the interview ring, and there he was talking to, I want to say, Sarah Schreiber. And you see, what Ricochet's saying here is that embarrassing Sheamus, that's the real victory. Like, it's, in spite of then, losing, it's just as good as a win. Is embarrassing Sheamus. That's the real win here. That I know I have won when I embarrass Sheamus, even though he also beat me. It's yes, it's just as good as winning. Creeping back in. The lad's taking the piss by nicking the man's jacket and putting on an accent. Oh, I'm Ricochet. Because I'm trying to do an American being an Irishman, but they tend to go to different places. Like, oh, I am Ricochet. I'm from Ireland. It's like, sorry, where in Ireland? And are you definitely sure it's Ireland and not also just traversing Europe as you go? It's another one. Are you doing the accent of a Dutch person who's lived in Ireland for a couple of years? Oh, I'm from Ireland. Yeah, Irish is not a lot of America's strongest accent. To be fair, Australian's the worst. I'm just going to say it. In terms of accents, of what I've seen Americans try, Australian's the worst. There's something about the little quirks of the accent that they're just not recognisable by the. I don't know what it is. I don't know why Americans can't pick on them, as in pick up on the little quirks and things. Obviously not talking about Americans who are purposely, like, their careers doing accents. Obviously they study and pick up on it, but your everyday person like Richard O'Shea over here, there's the little quirks of the accent just not picked up. So it sounds like you're doing a bit of traversing around the world. It's an interesting one, but still, at least that Irish is better than Australian. I'm pretty certain most Australians will also tell you that. Anyway, unsurprisingly, Ricochet and Sheamus, it was quite a strong pairing. It was a entertaining match. Even the Irishman, willing to partake in the flippity flops. It's called high risk for a reason though, and a Spanish fly off the top led to Richard landing on the Irishman's leg and bending it bad. Like, Sheamus, lucky that wasn't much worse. Like, able to finish the match. But the way that Ricochet landed on that leg and he just immediately saw it bend, like, oh crap. Like, is this the most cursed division in WWE? Like, just for this to happen. First last week with Humberto Carrillo, then this here. It's like it's people just escaping major injury. It's like, oh dear. Anyway, Ricochet's always been amazing in the ring. It's just that WWE has never had any idea as to what to do with him. And here again, with a wee banger of a match, ending with an awesome, like, near moonsaulting man spot for a close fall, and then just followed up with a bro kick. And yeah, I will say I popped for Sheamus after the match, calling him Rick O'Shea, just like, oh yes, there we go with his Irish heritage. And he was one of the other people to also give a wee nod to Lashley's Open Challenge from the US Open Challenge. I realised I was about to repeat myself. A little applause for whenever WWE remembers that these characters live in the same world. But that was the kind of feeling throughout the entire show, where somebody would do a match, but then afterwards they'd go, Lashley's got an Open Challenge. I'm obviously considering it. And I like that. It made it feel important, even though in the end they just pulled the rug out from under you and you're meant to have felt got. I'm not entirely sure that's the feeling I had. But yeah. Ricochet Sheamus was unsurprisingly strong. Sheamus' streak continues. Hopefully he's not like twerked something and he's perfectly fine. Or tweaked something, sorry. Monday. Proof I'm tired. But yeah. As I get the image of Sheamus twerking. That's the end of that segment. I need to move on. We also got Retribution continuing that aura of everybody gunning for Bobby Lashley's challenge. Even if their entire aura for this promo is, we're just a bit shite, aren't we? This gimmick's a bit crap. Impressed with Mace flipping a coin and catching it and then delivering his line. Just like Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever. Just flip a coin, catch it, deliver a villainous line. It's like, because I grew up with Batman and Forever, I'll always find that cool, even if the bottom of the barrel heel personas are doing it. I still feel really high on it. Yeah. Anyway, Asuka versus Charlotte was up next, and Con was the commentators going, the stakes are high for this one, and I'm like, apparently, it's just like a match that could have implications for future Raw Women's Championship opportunity. And for me, that screams, it's just another Raw repeat. Like, what else are they going to do? What else? It's a repeat match, obviously. That said, this was an absolute banger of a match. That unfortunately having to adjust among wardrobe malfunction, but it wasn't enough to take much away. Like, when these women have such fantastic chemistry, wrestled at such a great pace, with both women adjusting really well on the fly. And yes, there were constantly throughout this match, or multiple times, it had to cut to black. Charlotte was having absolutely major issues, and obviously that puts a hindrance on the flow. We still had an audience coming through, but as an audience, seeing black, it breaks your immersion, obviously, and that's not what you want in the middle of the match, which obviously sucks. I'm assuming this is probably the end of the cow gear. Sorry, that was my immediate reaction. Was seeing, it was like, oh, she's dressed as a moo cow. Like, no, it's 101 Dalmatians, Greta DeVille. Obviously, thank you, Twister, for saving me last night and not embarrassing myself and going, oh, there she was as a moo cow. Like, no, Greta DeVille. Ah, yes, I've got that on VHS, or had it on VHS. It's probably at the parents somewhere. Who knows about it? Why am I going on this tangent? Let's get off it. But yeah, this was a banger of a match where, because it's WWE as well, Ripley made her way out midway through, which set up the interference later on in the match to cause the ending. The only thing out of the column there was earlier in the show, as I was saying, she came in and she was saying that she wants a new contender, which Charlotte Flair is not, according her yesterday's jam. And yeah, it's then odd to see her come out to specifically get at Charlotte. It was like, well, why are you out there then if you're like, I'm moving on? Well, she's out there though, because who else is she going to face if it's not Asuka or Charlotte? Same issue with the men's division. Nobody else has been built up, so you either need time to do it, or you just go with the same again. Not too many complaints though. Like, when I get to watch Flair and Asuka wrestle silky smooth at an awesome pace for like 10 to 15 minutes, I'm a happy boy. Like, it's one of those things where, in isolation, absolutely just top notch all the way across. It's just like it's the other stuff, like the Monday Night Raw things that creep in, which for me just obviously make it feel part of the show. But an absolute highlight of this week's show. Counters galore among the familiarity, which they got across really well just with the sheer amount of counters. Asuka having an answer for almost all of Charlotte's tricks, be it a roll-up, be it a transition into a move, natural selection or whatever. Asuka had the answers. And I like the fact we saw that again and again. And it wasn't just one or two. It was, no, these two are really familiar. You're going to see it for almost like just every major attempt at anything. The Queen also had answers for a lot of Asuka's offense, but it felt like Asuka got to be the one shown to correctly answer the most questions. Flair distracted by Ripley and rolled up in a counter of a figure eight counter of a roll-up counter, which is just a perfect example of the sheer amount of counters to get across that familiarity there was in this match. Like, even if the beat was standard WWE distraction stuff, the quality was so much higher in the way of just the way the ending went down. Asuka wins, but they absolutely nailed that feeling that it could have been either one of them, and I can't applaud them more for that. And it's for me, the wardrobe malfunctions. It sucks because this match had such an incredible pace that unfortunately they took away from it. Like having to cut to black, having to go to the ringside to kind of try and sort the stuff out, and it seemingly was a problem that continued throughout the entire match. But they still got those energy moments, and it was a really strong match. Yeah, really good stuff. Easily the match of the night, and it's not even close. Like the thing of the night, yeah, really, really positive on that match. It's just, yeah, without the wardrobe malfunctions, we're talking about one of the best Raw Teddy matches of the year. Which is why it sucks that they happened, because it was such a strong match. That's it. Anyway, the final segment to talk about for Monday Night Raw this week, the Lumberjack match, Damian Priest versus John Morrison. Immediately, why? Because there's only one way to follow up a Lumberjack match, and that's with a Lumberjack match. Oh, jeez. Oh, it's genius booking. And obviously, as I talked about earlier, sucky news coming out of Backlash that Miz may have torn his ACL. 5 to 7 months. It's a sucky injury, and to get it in that zombie Lumberjack match, like, of all matches, you get it in that nonsense as well. Like, that's a double whammy of sucky. Yeah, he may be out for months. So yeah. What sucks for Miz may be good news for Priest fans, as he surely gets to move on now, as in they don't have a choice in the matter anymore. Surely. We're not going to get Priest versus Morrison every week. We had it like 3 or 4 weeks since WrestleMania, and in the build-up to WrestleMania we got to see it as well. Like Priest versus Morrison. But Morrison is really, really good at making Priest look like $1 million. The only problem is we've seen it about 8 times in 2 months, like 2 or 3 months. Like, that's too much. I am done seeing this match, even though like they're a very good pairing. Yeah, I'm done with it. But yes, Morrison was parkouring around the Lumberjacks, like a bit of impressive fun before the big lad then slammed him flat on his back. The feuds between the Jacks themselves led into our closing run of Chaos. Was again nice to see WWE not forget things like Alexander and Benjamin's tiff. It's like, yeah, you didn't just drop it because they didn't have a match this week. It's like, no, you found a way to weave it in, and yeah, continuity in WWE deserves a golf clap. Morrison, yeah, again, a great opponent for Priest. Really awesome at helping the big lad look fantastic. Just a shame we've seen it a dozen times, too many already. Fingers crossed this is the end of the arc, and Miz's incredibly sucky injury could be that nail. To be fair, they probably don't have a choice anymore. What's he going to do next? And again, my biggest worry is they haven't got anything. And Priest might just float about now until Money in the Bank. He's got nothing to do. He'll float about, maybe have a couple matches, go into something. That's my biggest worry. Hopefully not. For me, even facing the Angel Garza, because they did face each other in the Miz storyline, that feels like a drop down, because they're building up Angel Garza after he's been flatlined as nothing. Just completely flattened to not even someone he should be concerned about existing on the show. They're building him back up again. So to have him face Priest has got to win that. And that sucks for Garza. We'll see. We'll see who Priest faces. I was just in my head who is Priest interacting with? Oh, I guess Garza. But they're building him back up, and they're building Priest back up. So I don't know who Priest faces, but it's not them, and it's not Elias. I hope to God it's not Elias. Please. He's a complete wrong opponent for that. Anyway, there was one more segment, and that was Eva Marie, who got a Hollywood VTR play. She's going to be a great heel with all of this, I want to be the star for you people to look up to. All of that BS. Potentially great stuff on the horizon. I was a big fan of both of her NXT run and her SmackDown run, purely because she wasn't that strong a wrestler, but in an era where they have got a much stronger roster, and they were able to play off of that, and her character really exuded it. And there's the idea that she may not be an in-ring competitor, she may be working as a manager. I feel like that can work really, really strong, because the issue was always going to be when she wrestled, and it was the entertainment was seeing her knowing that she isn't that great, but finding multiple ways to get out of it. But if you take away that aspect of her having to wrestle, case solved. Just case solved. End of that. And if she's a manager and she does those tricks, well, that makes sense because she's a manager. She would do that, like Bobby Heenan. It's yeah. So yeah, I don't want to get myself too excited. Because again, it's Monday Night Raw. It's the women's division on Raw, which it's needed a lot of work. But yes, it could be going somewhere. I'm all for her elevating herself as this grand, amazing person in an amazing heel act. We'll see. Anyway, my voice really is going, and I need it for tomorrow for the NXT review. So anyway, thank you for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with the NXT review at around the same time, with about 6 EST, and then it's AEW immediately afterwards. Wednesdays are fun. Wednesdays are good. And you can follow me on Twitter at the Damn Implicat, that's damn as in damn, and also over on Twitch at the Implications. Tomorrow streaming at 6:30 BST, because that's what the time I'm on now, which is inconveniently, I think that's about 1:30 EST. That's not a great American time. Also, you can follow Wrestling Headlines over on Twitter at Russell Headlines, and on Facebook at Wrestling Headlines. There's no app, but it's popular, it's doing well. Anyway, yes. So with that, what did you make of the Kofi Kingston stuff on this Monday Night Raw? Are you with me that Kofi Kingston is being elevated into a main event slot, or is this just like a side thing to continue us through the TV until we get to Hell in a Cell and Lashley McIntyre? Are you excited for either or? I think I'm fine with either or. If it makes the TV stronger, why would I complain? It's the main point. My main gripe is how bad Raw is as a show. So if this gives substance to the show and direction, like a rivalry that isn't directly with McIntyre for Lashley to kind of jump into, why would I complain about that? Not everything has to be directly main event for the pay-per-view, and you're still building to it without giving us Lashley McIntyre, which is my main thing. You're giving us variety on the road to build up to the thing. Because scary enough, the audience remembers who they're feuding with. Don't need to repeat it 20 million times, or have them only interact with those people so that you know. It's like, no, you can have them wrestle other people. The audience will remember. It's fine. And if you're worried, just play a video package. It's fine. Got 3 hours to fill. It's fine. Anyway, with that, I say thank you for watching, liking, viewing, engaging in any form, in any manner. Greatly appreciated as always. And I'll be back tomorrow with the NXT review. So with that, I bid you adieu. Adios.